Hey everybody, what's going on? All right, I'm back. It is 2023. This is the first new video of 2023. It is January 1st. Happy New Year to all of you. This video, I just wanted to go over some of my top picks for the 2022 horror films that were released that I was fortunate enough to see, because there are several that are not on this list that may very well belong there. I just never got a chance to see them. So, forgive me if I am excluding Smile. Haven't seen that yet. I know there's a lot of hype on that one. Nope. I never got a chance to see that. Watcher. The new Hellraiser I never saw. And I did not get a chance to see Pearl yet. I started it. I'm probably 15-20 minutes in, but I did not get to see it in time. There were a few that I just recently saw, but I have seen enough this year to certainly put together a top 10 list, so just wanted to go over that with you guys quick. So let's get right into it. Here is my top 10 best horror films of 2022 that I saw anyways. All right, here goes. Okay, so first I'll sort of explain how I put the list together. So I just basically included my top 10 favorites that I enjoyed or liked, and I put them sort of in a ranking order as to what I scored them out of 10. And that's basically the order I put them in. So there's some that are kind of have the same review ranking, if you will, that I gave them. So for instance, the bottom 4 on my list, from 7 straight through to 10, they all had a score of 7 out of 10 that I gave them. So they're in no particular order. I just ranked them about the same in terms of how much I enjoyed them. So I'll start with those. So the bottom of the top 10 list, I have Christmas, Bloody Christmas. Now that is a new one that was put out by Shudder exclusively this year for the holidays. And I thought it was actually a little bit better than I thought it was going to be, really. I thought it was going to be super cheesy, and it definitely had some cheesiness, but it had some good dialogue, some good chemistry with the characters, and yeah, it was just kind of an interesting little story about how these weird-looking Santa Claus dolls malfunction and resort to their crazy military training techniques or something. It's a really far-fetched, wacky story, but it was a pretty good time, and it had a really neat Christmas atmosphere, so I ended up enjoying it, and I gave it a 7 out of 10. So that one is the first of the 4. The next one, I included the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Now, I know a lot of people hated that on Netflix, but I didn't hate it. I didn't think it was great, but the more I thought about it, the more I thought I still had a pretty good time watching it. Was it anywhere near as good as most of the movies, like the 2003 movie? No, definitely not. Not as good as the 2005 either, or of course the original, or the second one from, 86. It's not. It's definitely not. But I still had fun with it, and I thought, yeah, at the time I gave it a 7 out of 10. Maybe I was being a little bit generous, but I felt like I still enjoyed it, and I was glad they put something together anyway, at least. It's better than leaving it just dormant and, there be nothing, I guess. So that's kind of the way I was looking at it. So that is another one that made the top 10 for me. Next one in line, and this is going to surprise a lot of people, maybe ruffle some feathers, but I put X in there with a 7 out of 10. Now, maybe I had the film built up a little bit too much because of what I had already heard from some reviews that I had seen. I hadn't watched any in-depth reviews, just, kind of the basic once-over on whether, certain people enjoyed it or not. So I went into it expecting it to be pretty damn good. It's a creative movie. It's certainly different. And I did enjoy it, but I think I built it up a little bit too much to a point where I was, disappointed a little bit, maybe. I guess it wasn't really my thing as much as I thought it would be. But again, still a good movie, well acted. Okay, and so for rounding out the rest of the bottom, I also put on a movie that isn't quite a horror movie, but it sort of has some horror themes to it, and that is Violent Night. I'm sure you've heard, with David Harbour playing Santa Claus. I threw it on there because it does have an element of some decent gore here and there, and I had a good time watching it, and I felt like it was still, even although it's a Christmassy movie, it was still kind of up my alley with that horror sort of theme. So yeah, I'm sort of cheating a little bit by throwing it on there because it's not really a horror movie, but it's borderline and it has some great gore in it. But it's another movie that I did enjoy. It's a lot different than Christmas Bloody Christmas, for example. That's a much different kind of movie, but it's the same kind of theme, right? It's just Christmas Bloody Christmas is more like a slasher movie, and Violent Night is more like a sort of a revenge thing, and you still have that a little bit of that warm fuzzy family feeling they try to fit in there, right? So I guess that's why it doesn't feel quite like a horror movie, so to speak. So those are the bottom four that I would throw in there. And again, bottom four are still in the top 10, still movies I enjoyed. So I just wanted to mention them as four that I definitely enjoyed that made my list anyway. All right, so moving on to number 6, I chose the movie Prey. Now, Prey is one that I saw, of course, much earlier in the year, like most of you did, but it was one that I thought was surprising, and I did enjoy it. I had a pretty good time watching that, and it was better than I thought it was going to be. So, and that one is the one that I gave 7.5 out of 10 when I first saw that, and that's why it's number 6 on the list. So, definitely a good movie. Okay, so moving on to the top 5. So for number 5, this one I also gave a 7.5 out of 10. Actually, number 5 right up to number 3, I gave a 7.5. So number 5 on my list is the movie Barbarian. Now, Barbarian is another one that I had heard a lot about going into. So it's very hyped up for me, and I had very high expectations again for it. But for the most part, it did meet those high expectations. I thought it was a really fantastic movie. It was well done. There were some wacky moments with the whole, like, I'm sure if you've seen it, I don't want to give anything too much away, but the thing that we're dealing with down there, some of the things that particular thing did were a little odd for me and stuff too, that kind of threw me a bit. But again, still great movie, well acted again. Bill Skarsgård in there, Justin Long. I mean, what can you say? That guy, he's fantastic in everything, and he's become this kind of this little horror icon actually for me, with of course Jeepers Creepers and a few other things here and there. But I really enjoyed Barbarian. I did give it a 7.5 out of 10. It was borderline 8 for me, but I think it was, again, that I had it built up in my head that it was going to at least be an 8. So that's probably why I gave it a 7.5. Might have to revisit it again, but I definitely really enjoyed Barbarian. I certainly think it's a top 5 of the year for sure. Yeah, so 7.5 out of 10 on that one, and I gave it the number 5 spot. Okay, so moving on to the number 4 spot. This one is a big franchise movie, and it's hard to disappoint me with these unless they really suck. And this one did not disappoint. I thought it was a pretty darn good movie. It is the Scream 2022 film that came out last January. When I saw it, I remember being thrown off by some of the choices they made with the characters, like the direction they took Dewey in. That still kind of irks me, that he became this drunk, couldn't keep it together, lost his job that he loved. You know, he was kind of dorky about the law in some ways, and he seemed really serious about it. He was very serious about Gail, you know, and then they wrote in the story that he couldn't live with her for a month, you know, and couldn't keep his shit together, so to speak, and ended up losing his job over his drinking issue. And his, I mean, from an actor's standpoint, it's probably great playing a character like that because there's a lot of elements there, but it's just not Dewey's character to me at all. So that was a tough one to get around. But for the good parts, there's some good new characters in there, particularly Jenna Ortega again. I thought she was very good in that. And it was pretty well done. You know, I thought it was a lot better than 4, maybe even better than 3 is what I was thinking for a while. But after watching 3 a lot more, there's a lot of elements that just take me back to the original first 2 Screams, and the third one has a bit of that flavor, even though it's wacky, and again, weird choices were made in that one. But I did think the new one was really good like that, and it's the first Scream movie I had seen probably since the second film that gave me that feeling back a bit, you know. So they did a lot of good with the new one, even though I think they did a lot of things kind of dumb too. But still, I put it up there. I enjoyed it, and it's a movie that I enjoyed even more than all the ones I previously mentioned. So that's why I gave it the number 4 spot on my list. So that's Scream 2022. Okay, so moving on to the top 3 spot, and the last one that I gave a 7.5 out of 10. Now, if you know me, you know there's a certain movie with a lot of hype this year that I gave that mark to. So many of you may know that I'm about to say number 3 is Halloween Ends. Now, Halloween Ends is a movie that, of course, I am very torn on, because judging it as a standalone Halloween universe movie, if you will, because that's basically what it is, it's a great movie, and I thought it was quite well done, well acted, interesting. So I couldn't not give it a 7.5 for me, because I felt like the whole movie as a whole, separate from my disappointment, I thought it was at least worth a 7.5, you know, like a 3.5 out of 5-star movie, which is pretty good, you know, and that's how I felt about it. But on the flip side of it, I was super disappointed that I wasn't going to get the rest of my story, that they decided to take this whole other angle with it. And I get that they wanted to do that, and they're brave and awesome and all that stuff that you guys have been saying about them. It's absolutely true. But at the same time, I feel like they could have done all of that and made that movie had they just left it one more and let us finish our story. You know, instead of giving us the same old thing. To me, it's not the same old thing. You know, like the difference between 2018 and Kills, that wasn't the same thing. It was the same story, and he got crazier with the kills, and you were like, oh my God. But I still wanted to continue that trajectory. Like, can we leave him kind of how he was, and then he's slowly deteriorating or something, rather than he's just this shell of what he used to be, and really he isn't really necessary for that story. Not really. You don't really need to have Michael Myers in there. It could have just been this bad spirit or curse on Haddonfield at Halloween, right? Where somebody kind of loses their shit and, you know, turns into this Corey where everything gets all... Like, there were a lot of ways you could have done it. That's all I'm saying. It would have been great to have the rest of my story. I was so looking forward to finish, you know. So it irks me when people are like, well, we already got that, and the same, but dude, that's the story. So really the big thing was we didn't get kind of the rest of that story trajectory I think we were all expecting with some closure before it took this really wild turn that it did, and this whole new story, which again, looking at it, you know, on its own, it's really a good movie. And I feel like the people who are critical and who were disappointed and crushed that they didn't get the rest of their story like I was when it came out, you have to look at it separately to see that it's that good of a film. So that's why I put it in my top three. I enjoyed it a lot. I enjoyed it more than I enjoyed Scream. You know, uh, even though it was easily the most disappointing film of the year for me, totally disappointing. But at the same time, it's still a good movie, so it's tough. It's just like, damn, I just wanted the rest of my story, you know. So that's the tough part about number three. Okay, so that brings us to the top two of the year. And knowing the few that I mentioned at the beginning that I'm excluded from the list, you can probably figure out which two those are going to be. So, number two, I chose, which I gave an 8 out of 10 to when I saw it, is The Black Phone. Yes, The Black Phone, I thought, was a very well done movie, really well acted, great story, creepy, scary elements of it too, you know. I just thought it was very well done. It could have easily been the best movie of the year, I think, for the horror genre. For me, anyway, I felt like it was really well done. Solid movie. I probably wish it was a little bit scarier, because I do like them scary. Like, for instance, Sinister, the previous movie Ethan Hawke did with the same director, that movie I found was a lot scarier, right? But again, The Black Phone, the movie itself, maybe is a little better than Sinister. I don't know, but it's not as scary. That's for sure. Definitely not. They're both great movies, but The Black Phone I gave the number 2 spot this year. Definitely would consider it for number 1, but there was one other movie that I saw that I did hear some good things about, and I went into with an open mind. And it turned out to be a movie that I really enjoyed, and it was honestly even better than I thought it would be. And that movie, you've probably guessed, is Terrifier 2. I did hear a fair amount of hype about it, how it was good, you know, and it was hard to see in theaters, and it took a while before I got a chance to see it. And when I finally did, and again, I had it really built up, and sometimes that can hurt you, you know, like I had X really built up in my head, and I felt that didn't meet expectations quite as much. Same thing with Barbarian, I had that built up, but I felt like that kind of lived up to the hype, and it kind of got there, didn't go further for me. But Terrifier 2 actually went a little further. I was pleasantly surprised with how much fun it was, and it was just really entertaining. I just wanted it to go on, you know, and I went in there expecting it to be pretty grotesque and pretty gory. And at times it was pretty gnarly, but like, I mean, you know, I'm a horror fan, and most of us that are watching these kind of movies have seen enough gore, you know, in many cases to even blow this away, you know. Like, we've seen gorier. I wouldn't say I've seen a ton gorier. I'm not like a huge gore fan, to be honest. It's not really my thing, but in this one I was expecting it, and in most of the gory spots where you hear people were getting sick and freaking out and stuff, like what I'm looking at is, oh, how did they do that? Or I wonder what they used there, or how did it, you know, I'm sort of dissecting on what they would have to do on set to get all this blood and mayhem, you know. So that's sort of where my head's at. So I kind of don't get too grossed out by it when I see like something overwhelmingly gory like that, or a really neat kill from any, you know, fine horror film these days. But Terrifier 2, yeah, great kills in it, super gory, very entertaining. David Howard Thornton is great again as Art the Clown. Real convincing, real creepy character. And I can honestly say he is on his way to being, you know, one of these big horror icons. I was picking on Chris Jericho a little bit for saying that, like, you know, he's right up there with Freddy and Jason on. I'm just like, whoa, pump the brakes there, bucko. Like, it takes a while in the game to get to that. Like, I feel like Ghostface has only recently, like, got to that kind of level, you know, where he's rubbing elbows with Leatherface and Freddy and Jason and Michael Myers and all that. You know, he's kind of there now, but it took a while. You know, you can't just jump right in. But Art the Clown, he is well on his way. After seeing that second movie, I was like, damn. And of course, All Hallows Eve, I mean, technically it's his third appearance and everything, but yeah, I was impressed. Terrifier 2 lived up to the expectations and even exceeded a little bit. I just remember finishing that movie and thinking, man, that was a really good time. Like, people are not kidding. It's good. So there you have it. That is my number one pick for the best horror film of 2022 that I've seen anyway. So like I said, I still haven't finished watching Pearl, so that didn't make the lineup, I guess you could say. I never did see Nope. I never saw The Watcher. I never saw Hellraiser this year or Smile. So again, those are, you know, 5 or 6 there that I have not seen that might very well be on that list too. I don't know. Anyway, that is my list, so let me know what your list is. If you didn't do your own video, let me know in the comments what your top 10 was this year, or maybe you don't have a top 10, maybe a top 5, or maybe you like one way more than I did, or I've completely left some out. I know there's plenty that I haven't seen besides those few I mentioned. Those were just some of the bigger ones that tend to have more hype behind them. So I figured I would tell you straight away that I haven't actually seen those ones yet. So those are just the ones that I have actually seen. Alrighty, so that'll pretty much do it for that list. I also want to let you know for Christmas, didn't get a ton of horror related stuff. I did get a new calendar, same brand as I had last year, like a horror calendar that has a breakdown of just important horror events that I've put together. And I picked up some new posters as well. You might be able to see the Nightmare on Elm Street one that's just peeking into frame a bit there. I took down a bunch of my collectible Halloween posters, like those ones back there. I did leave the first and second there, and I do have Halloween 3 back here as well, but took 4 and 5 down and put them with the 6 H2O and Resurrection posters as well from Scream Factory. So those are sort of put away. But I picked up this nice reprint. It's a 27 by 40. So it's basically the same thing as the original, just way less money. And I just have it in just a regular frame for now. But I planned on moving them around from time to time, because I do have some nice frames as well. I do have a new Hereditary as well that is a pretty nice one that I picked up that is an actual movie poster. So that one is a legit. It's a single side though. I also picked up a nice reprint of Jaws as well, one of the best movies ever made, that I have here as well. So that was just a few of the pickups, of course. I also took advantage of a few sales and have some new things coming in the near future. So I will definitely be putting those together for you guys when they come in, and we'll get some more videos shot when the time comes. And in the meantime, I will leave you with a few pictures of some of the posters I picked up for Christmas, and yeah, we will see you again for the next video, guys.